Ladies and gentlemen, Capital G back at it with an interesting partner pairing today. Kodama of the East Tree and Ludevic, Necro Alchemist. Of course, prior to talking about the deck, just a couple quick reminders. Starting with the typical like and subscribe. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel, please absolutely support the channel. Trying to grow it to the magic numbers, shall we say. And of course, come join the Dungeons and Cardboard Discord group. Play lots of EDH, lots of Flesh and Blood, and other great games with some really awesome people. It's our LGS away from our LGS, free to join and free to play. So as long as you've got a Discord, just click on the link in the description below and come join us. And of course, check out our friend Bulldog, doing some Resident Evil Village as of late on his Twitch and his YouTube. So fun times there as well. On that note, let us talk about our sort of odd couple pairing, the Spirit and the Scientist. So let us start with Ludevic, since that's who we've got on screen at the moment. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player may draw a card if a player other than you lost life this turn. So while he's out there, it encourages our opponents to damage each other rather than us, buys us a little bit of time for our weird scheme. How do we know we have a weird scheme? Well, we're running Kodama of the East Tree in our command zone alongside Ludevic. That is such a weird pair. So Kodama of the East Tree, of course, 6/6 with Reach, Legendary Spirit. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put there by Kodama's ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. Of course, both of these characters have partners, so we can run both in the command zone, and that is exactly what we're doing. So why these two? Well, I want them to distract each other long enough so that I can get sort of Kodama's actual secret partner into play. Ooh, who could it be? Who could it be? It's Meloku. So the idea here is that with Kodama of the East Tree in play, if we manage to get Meloku down, she's got this really cool ability. Pay a mana, return a land you control to its owner's hand to create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. Once the token comes into the battlefield, triggers Kodama, we can put the land right back onto the battlefield and go infinite. So why Ludevic? Blue for, of course, Meloku, and red for a bunch of haste enablers. So we can, swing right away instead of, waiting a whole turn hoping we don't get board wiped. Such is the concept. And there's other cool synergies there as well. So before we dive into the rest of our creatures, let's start with our artifacts. We're not running very many. Just running the Arcane Signet because it's perfect mana fixing. A Soul Ring. And a haste enabler in the form of Hammer of Perforos. Red, and 1 for this legendary enchantment artifact, so it's both. Gives the team haste. And we can also, in a spot, sacrifice the land to get a 3/3 colorless golem onto the battlefield. For the rest of our creatures, because we like putting lands into play, AC, Tyrant of Gyre Strait. I don't actually like him as a commander, but in the 99 here, I have to admit, we're playing with a little more firepower than usual, so AC is in because of that. Archmage Emeritus. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, draw a card. We do have a couple other combos as well, so we want to draw into them. The Augur of Autumn. We can look at our top card, we can play lands from the top of our library, and if we control 3 or more creatures with different powers, we can cast creature spells from the top. So I'm not too worried about casting creatures, just another way of playing lands off the top. Birgi, God of Storytelling. Whenever we cast a spell, we get a red mana. We don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Also, creatures we control can boast twice. We don't have any creatures that can boast, don't worry about that. Really, she's here either for, generating us that extra mana, or if we play her on our backside. Hoinfell, Horn of Bounty. Birgi is really good for us on both sides, so having both of these options to us is awesome. The Harnfell, of course, is we can pitch a card to exile the top 2 cards of our library, and we have the rest of the turn to play them. Moving on to the Courser of Crufix, another way to play lands off the top. In this case, we have to keep our top of our library revealed, which is unfortunate. It can give away some of our secrets. One thing to help us with our secrets is Drift of Phantasms. 0/5 Flying Defender, so we can put it down as a blocker if we need to. Or we can transmute it for a blue, blue, and 1. Go get any 3 mana cost card in our deck and put it into our hand. You're going to see we have a lot of cool choices, including the Dual Caster Mage. When this enters the battlefield, copy an instant or sorcery. We may choose new targets for the copy. Running Leer. Nice little hidden piece of tech if we're ready to combo off and we don't want to get countered. This will definitely reduce the amount of interaction that can stop us, because all spells can't be countered. So this could backfire, because if our opponents have a key piece of instant speed removal, well, we won't be able to counter it. So we do have to be careful. But if we are fearful of other players' counter spells, put down Leer first and then go for the combo. Running the Lotus Cobra, of course, because we're playing a bunch of lands, and we're going to use that to generate some mana. Another combo I decided to put in here, and we're going to the reserve list for this very well-known piece, very famous piece, is Palinchron. So the idea here is that we are running some mana doublers in the deck. So ways for our lands to produce extra mana, so much so that we can cast Palinchron, activate the ability to put him back to our hand. Of course, anytime the Palinchron comes into the battlefield, we get to untap 7 lands. So, very, very dangerous. Very well-known combo piece. Comes out of nowhere sometimes if you're not looking for it. So, using our mana doublers, we're going to go infinite with our Palinchron, such is the plan. Helping us also increase our mana when we get our mana doublers out is Peregrine Drake, which, when it enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. Running Perforos, God of the Forge. Even if we don't have a haste enabler, if you have Perforos out when we combo off with either the Palinchron or with Meloku, we can kind of win the game that way. Such is the plan. Lastly, we have Tatiova. So whenever our land enters the battlefield under our control, we gain a life and draw a card. So get more card advantage that way. Moving on to our 10 enchantments. Start off with Burgeoning. So whenever an opponent plays a land, we can play a land. Kind of ramp up in the early going that way. Exploration also lets us play a second land every turn. Heartbeat of Spring. So whenever any player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. We're playing a little high risk here with both Heartbeat of Spring and Mana Flare. Does the same thing but in red. And the idea here, of course, is that we want to double up our mana and just go insane and ramp out real fast. Yes, it will accelerate our opponents. That's the risk we are taking here. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So again, another win con going with our combo pieces. The Leyline of Anticipation. We might be able to start with this on the board for free and cast spells as though they have flash. Just a powerful thing to have. Mana Reflection. Unlike Mana Flare and Heartbeat of Spring, this allows us to tap our mana for double without providing the same benefit to our opponents. Yes, it costs 6. That's the downside there, but it's a much safer bet. Mass Hysteria, we combo off, then we play our Mass Hysteria, give everything haste, and swing in for the win. Some card advantage in the form of Rhystic Study. Like I said, we're pulling out the big guns for this one. And Sylvan Library. So make our opponents pay the 1, or we can pay some life and keep extra cards off the Sylvan Library. We're also running more, search effects, so we'll be able to shuffle through our deck fairly quickly, so we don't get stuck looking at the same cards all the time. Lots of interaction with 17 instants, including a Braid, which can shoot down a creature or an artifact. Arcane Denial, just an easily splashable blue counterspell. Beast Within, destroy target thing. Brainstorm, draw 3, put 2 back, the 2 cards that we don't need. Chaos Swap, get rid of target thing again. Yes, we risk giving our opponent something good, but again, we're playing a bit of a riskier deck, shall we say here. Rocking a Dissipate. This is a pretty safe bet. Yes, it's 3 mana for a counter spell, which is not the most efficient, but this exiles the spell if it succeeds. So, gone for good. I like that. Evacuation. Return all creatures to their owner's hand. Someone going for the alpha? Well, no. We'll survive that pretty easy. Frantic Search. Draw 2, discard 2, untap 3. Maybe end up mana positive. Harrow. Sack 1 land, go get 2. Lightning Bolt. Kill target small thing that's worth killing. Lightning Bolt, I've always argued, is a great commander card, especially as the format has gotten faster. Lightning Bolt has been steadily gaining power in our format. Narset's Reversal, great little double blue spell here. Copy an instant or sorcery spell, then return the original to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. Fun times. A Negate to, counter a non-creature spell. Once and Future to return a card from our graveyard to our hand and 1 other card from our graveyard on top of our library. Or if we end up spending at least 3 green mana on the spell, we can actually return both cards to our hand. Pull from Tomorrow, great instant speed card draw. Blue, X, draw X, discard a card. Totally fine with that. Return to Nature. Shoots down an artifact or enchantment, or even gets a card in a graveyard. Shared Summons lets us tutor up 2 creatures. And Worldly Tutor lets us go get a key creature as well, usually our hidden partner, Meloku. Moving on to sorceries with the Balaged Recovery. Returns a card from our graveyard back to our hand, or alternatively could be played as a land if we need it. Bramble Crush, we don't see too often, but we're generating so much mana with our mana flares that I think it's worth, like 4 mana to destroy a non-creature thing, I think is actually worth it. This can hit planeswalkers at sorcery speed. I mean, yes, at sorcery speed, but it hits planeswalkers, it hits artifacts, enchantments, or lands. Crackle of Power, another big finisher if we end up mana positive and going with infinite mana. So red, and triple X. Deal 5 times X damage to each of X targets. So for 5 mana, that's 5 damage to 3 targets. 8 mana, 10 damage to 5 damage to 1 target, or 10 damage to 2 targets, etc., etc. So we can go nuts with this card. Cultivate, of course, to go get some basics. Eldritch Evolution. Now here's a piece of spice. Green, and 1. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature to search our library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2, plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, exile Eldritch Evolution. Note that Ludevic is a 3 CMC creature, and Meloku is a 5 CMC creature. Yeah, it works. The math checks out. Farseek. Go get a plains, island, swamp, or mountain. Of course, we're running some lands that this can seek out to truly fix our mana. Good old-fashioned Fireball. Again, infinite mana, just blast away the table, old school. Cataxian Probe. Pay 2 life, draw a card. And maybe gain some information on one of our opponent's hands. Kodama's Reach, again for the ramp and the mana fixing. Rampant Growth. Regrowth, another way to return a card from our graveyard to our hand. Serum Visions, scry 2. Well, draw a card, then scry 2. Notice we're not running a lot of artifacts, so let's run the Shatterstorm. 3 visits, go get a forest card, put it onto the battlefield. Time of Need, another way to tutor out our Meloku. Toothed Nail, we get to 9 mana, get Meloku and Perforos, and just go nuts. Win the game right there on the spot. Such is the plan. And Windfall, of course, if we end up spending a bunch of our cards, draw a bunch more. We're blasting through that pretty quickly, so let's look at the mana base that we went with, and I went with a pretty intense mana base here. So we are running our appropriate Shocklands, Breeding Pool, running Castle Vantris, City of Brass. It's perfect colors. Yes, we take a damage every time we use it, but that's fine. Command Beacon, in case our Kodama gets removed a couple of times. Command Tower. Den of the Bugbear. Let me explain this one. So, recent Command Zone video talked about an interesting rules interaction with Den of the Bugbear. So let's read the activated ability, shall we? For a red and 3 generic, until end of turn, the Den of the Bugbear becomes a 3/2 red goblin creature with, whenever this creature attacks, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. It's still a land. So apparently we can activate this as many times as we want. Let's say we have infinite mana and we activate this ability 100 times. Or say, let's say 300 times. The land would actually gain, it would always be a 3/2 red goblin creature, but we actually get 300 instances of whenever this creature attacks. Create a 1/1 red goblin creature that's tapped and attacking. So this is another place we can dump our mana and just go infinite. It's a funky rules interaction, but there we go. 6 forests, a frontier biovac, 1 highland forest, just an alternate to the Shocklands in case we don't need to shock ourselves right away. The Hinterland Harbor, 4 islands, a Ketria Triome. Misty Rainforest, yes, we are actually running the fetches. I don't turn to them too often, but I think this deck actually calls for it this time out. 4 mountains, a Prismatic Vista, Rimewood Falls, Rootbound Crag, Scalding Tarn, Steam Vents, a Stomping Ground, rocking the Strip Mine to trip up our opponents if they get some fast mana, Sulphur Falls, Temple of the False God. Yes, I know people don't like it, but I do. Volatile Fjord, Wasteland, and lastly a Wooded Foothills. And that is where we ended up with Kodama of the East Tree and Ludevic Necro Alchemist, the Spirit and the Scientist. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. It's definitely a bit of a odd couple pairing that we got going on. But I think this deck is pretty brutal. So if you happen to have most of these pieces handy, give it a try. With that in mind, I will see you all next time. The next deck tech I plan on building will be a Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, so a little break from deck techs until then, until the whole set is spoiled, and then we will go from there. Until then, bye for now.